Now, guys, can we talk about incels, please? I want us to talk about incels, so can we talk about them now? Now that we've talked about healthy relationships with your family and kids, let's talk about incels, people who will never have that. I found this video as I was browsing the interwebs, and it was just so riveting. I had to share it with you guys. I had to. Even just from the comments, you can tell it's going to be a good video. Not everyone can be a 6'4" Adonis billionaire, MMA champion, poet, musician, ballroom dancer. The child that isn't embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. This would be the worst time in the US to start a war. Most men would not fight for this country because there is no incentive to defend it. So surely this video will be very good. Let's go.
This topic is one of the most taboo in all of society. Most people won't discuss it or even think about it since they don't want to deal with the immense social shaming that comes from it. As a person who studies history, you tend to see that we're incredibly ruthless to previous eras of history. That being said, every era of history thinks they're in the right, and they always do something wrong in a major way. Thus, it goes without saying that we're doing the same thing since every society does so. The human mind projects, and thus society which hates its ancestors really hates itself. That being said, someone needs to discuss the elephant in the room. As my father said growing up to me, if no one in the room is doing the right thing, that makes it your duty. I sincerely believe that the issues in modern dating are so horrible that they will cause a revolution in the next few years.
Guys, the problems in modern dating are so horrible, it's going to cause a revolution. Real.
For people new to my channel, that may sound insane, but I believe it unironically.
What? No, it doesn't sound insane at all. I'm totally in agreement with you. We're right. Is this what if? Yes, this is that channel. What the fuck are these words?
Clay. I've made several videos talking about why I believe America, and I would say the Western world in general, is on the verge of what I've called at different points a civil
I missed a lot of broadcasts. When do your VODs go live? They should be live. VODs should be available.
War, revolution, or right-wing backlash. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to tease out the different threads which can explain a unique historic event, which we'll only fully understand once it's occurred, as I believe it.
What will the revolution lead to? Will there be a new dating constitution signed, an incel parliament to vote on dating? Yes. Correct. Yes.
Well, the purpose of this video is to tease out what I've said before is the biggest crisis of our time, in my opinion, and the most important variable driving this revolution, the young male dating crisis. Why are we waiting?
What the fuck is this word? What if altist? Is that what that is? Like alt history? Althist? Althist? Okay, what if alt history? Okay. What if alt history? Okay. What a stupid ass fucking name for a channel. My name is Denims, so like I honestly like glass houses and bricks and all that, but like that is a really dumb channel name. What if autist? That's disrespectful to autistic people, okay? They don't make fucking YouTube channels dedicated to talking about how their problems are going to cause revolutions.
Found that it's very hard to be rational about things which affect us personally. We tend to be decently good at analyzing the reality of problems of which we don't have a personal stake, but once you get closer, people can become intensely biased as their thoughts and words become excuses for their self-interest.
I love the decision to emphasize certain words that don't matter at all. Their thoughts and words become excuses. Like, why did you emphasize those words? Okay. I don't understand why you did that, but okay.
Tangent, one of the things which annoys me is that people appeal to authenticity, or this emotionally feels right, thus it's moral and good, as if emotions are an arbiter of underlying goodness or truth. That being said, your emotions are a mammal brain manifestation of your genetic self-interest. Your emotions are a lower resolution, more primal version of logic, which involves getting what you want. You'll find that people who are guided by their
I
emotions
love these people. They're so adorable. It's just, I just want to like pinch the cheeks of people who sound like they just took their first philosophy class. It's like, oh, you're so cute. You must think you're so smart. Oh, you're so adorable.
are intensely selfish. Confusingly, often being selfless as a form of selfishness as a way for emotional stability or to look better socially. The reason I'm going through all of this is that this is the topic
My genes are self-interested in adding garlic to everything. Yo, this guy fucking gets it, man. You fucking get it. I had a bit of a eating raw garlic cloves phase. It kind of comes and goes in phases. I don't know what word I'm looking for there. They're just good. I love a good garlic. Oh, so spicy, such good flavor. Oh, okay, Wario. What? Excuse you. What are you, a vampire? Oh, you're not a vampire? Eat this whole garlic clove.
our society is capable of handling the least rationally. I'll see most people just break down into complete emotion about this subject. People very quickly lose their ability to be objective. I believe this is true, as mating is probably the most important thing in human life. Thus, we get very wrapped up in it. You will probably have a lot of emotions watching this video, and that's normal, but you need to take a deep
There's so many assumptions in this video. It's crazy. It's like assumption after assumption after assumption. I love it. It's amazing.
breath, think about what I'm actually saying, not what it seems like I'm saying, and whether or not it's true. Whenever anyone brings up this topic, they get immediately called an incel. First of all, as you'll get to later, this is a terrible argument on any single level. If you said this in a debate in a
What are these like massive chunks of text that he puts on the screen and then like doesn't address? We've removed any rules from discourse in our society. What this has resulted in is a social Wild West in which people use relational warfare for personal social gain, making stuff up, comma, false allegations, comma, spreading rumors, straw manning, magical thinking, not following causal logic, and like 30 other things. Did he write this? What is it? It's a form of verbal piracy. I will make a video on this at some point. Oh my God. There is nothing sexier than a dumb man who thinks he's right. It's just like, it's so cute. It's like a little kid showing you his like toy truck. And he's like, look at how good I am with my truck. I'm the fastest with my trucks. It's like, yeah, you are. Oh, you little babe. Oh, your truck is really fast.
society, you get laughed out of the room. A further irony is I get this a lot whenever I talk about this topic. You people know nothing about my personal life, and if you did, you would realize it's absolutely insane
You would realize I get mad bitches and hoes.
to say this about me. People use this photo of me from high school to mock me, but I also used to look like this when I was in better shape, and now I look like this. Well, I've been on keto for over a month to get into.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing at like the pose. He's so cunty with it. Look at the cuntiness. Look at him. He's like sitting on his little pilly, and he's like, oh, I'm so mysterious. Oh, yeah, I use Korean skincare products. That's why my skin is like glass. I love a good glamour shot. Yes, queen. Eat up.
Like this when I was in better shape, and now I look like this. Well, I've been on keto for over a month to get into better shape now. There is a barrier.
No, but seriously, girly pop, Whatifalthist? 1 second.
This. Well, I've been on keto for over a month.
Girly pop, go look into microblading for your eyebrows. Straight up, you will look so much cuntier if you just get those filled in. I did it. You will look good. I promise. I would not lead you astray. I would not lie to you. Yeah, get them microbladed. You'll love the after. You will love it. For anyone who doesn't know what microblading is, I'll show you a picture. It's sort of like a tattoo, but it's not a tattoo. If you feel like you have like really thin eyebrows and you could have like slightly fuller brows, They basically just take this blade, microblading, that has like dye in it, so it's similar to like a tattoo, and then they like they make like small little cuts on your eyebrows. Obviously, it's all sanitized and everything, and then the scarring and the like pigment create this like faux eyebrow, and it just gives you a slightly more fuller brow. I promise you, it hurts a little bit. It's not like, honestly, it's not the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life, but I didn't really need that much. I just needed a little for like the ends of my eyebrows because I have like this weird divot. You would benefit, girly pop. You would so benefit. Straight up, it's actually also not even expensive, so you should go for it. You should go for it.
Month to get into better shape now. There is a barrier between YouTubers and their audience for obvious reasons, which means you guys really know very little about me. I know me doing this here is incredibly petty, but the thing is, I'm responding to something even more petty, and I need to debunk this line of argument since otherwise it will clog up the entire discourse around this video. If you're a decent person watching this, I apologize. A lot of people think I'm some nerd dwelling in my parents' basement, but this channel is actually a pretty complex business that I make decent money off, where this is
Honestly, I kind of respect it. It's kind of like a resume. This video so far has not been really talking about the epidemic of lonely men. It's been more of like his resume on like, look, guys, I'm actually cool. I swear. So, you know, good for you, King. Good for you. Go and, you know, fight for yourself, King. Okay? You should put this video in the beginning of every single dating profile you make.
This is my full-time job. I have a team which works for me. I live in my own house. I make over 6 figures a year. I drive an Audi, and I'm 6'4" tall. I have a large social—
Okay, honey pop, 1 second. Oh my God, this is the most nerdy photo I've ever seen in my life. It's amazing. What's your rank in league? Because that's all I care about. Okay? What's your rank and what do you play? Because if you're a Teemo main, we can't, it's just not going to work between us. It's just not. It's just not. I'm sorry.
Network have founded 8 different social clubs, including one for professional influencers at one point. I'm pretty satisfied with my romantic options.
As an influencer, professional influencer is just like, it is the biggest oxymoron.
Right now, and I'm just not an incel. Again, I apologize for the egregious bragging, but if I don't do this, this video will just devolve into people calling me a loser without a real—
I love you. Oh my God, I love this guy so much. Oh, this is actually like, okay, I have to admit to something. All right. I like to have a nice variety of friends. I'm always a little bit concerned about echo chambers and like bubbles and stuff. And what helps me have confidence in my opinions is by surrounding myself with lots of different people. I kind of draw the line at like people who are just, you know, racist, people who are just Nazis, people who are just, it's like, you know, I actually don't want you here. But I have a lot of friends that are very normie. I have a lot of friends that, you know, they're cringe. They're cringe people. But I like having them around, right? I think that they're cool people. And I like to see the nice variety of people in the world. It helps center me a little bit more. This is someone I would add to my circle of friends just because I feel like I would get entertained every time we spoke. It would be an entertaining conversation every time. I'd be like, wow, that's so cool of you to say that. Really? True? Real? Wow, you're so right, King. You know, anyways, let's read this text. Also, side note, as a person who knows things, I've never seen a content creator do this before. Have like a video essay where they have like an essay of stuff that they want to say, record it, and then realize there was more stuff they wanted to say, and then write a paragraph and put it on the screen. I've never seen this before, ever. I've never, ever seen this, but incredible, honestly. Genuinely kind of pioneering, kind of innovation, kind of capitalist king. Let's keep going. Side note, as a person who knows a lot of content creators, the things I mentioned unironically don't make you happy. People who are on Instagram living the perfect life are mostly miserable and self-loathing. What people say about celebrities is true. What? Oh, okay. So he's saying all of these things don't make him happy. Or they don't necessarily make him happy? Okay.
but if I don't do this, this video will just devolve into people calling me a loser without a real argument. The reason I care about this topic is that as a young man, I see this issue hurting my people in a horrible way. I care about my fellow young men, and as you'll see later in this video, the whole society. I know hundreds of young men, and almost to a man, they complain about this issue being completely unbearable. I'm generally satisfied with my life now, and I made the choice that now that my needs are met, I want to help my people and community with their issues. Furthermore, I don't think people—
Every time he talks about helping my people, the only thing that I am hearing in my head, I'm just hearing one thing.
Why call brother? Why must you call down another blow?
Let my people go. Moses is the guy making this video, and Ramses is that his name? Ramses? I don't know, whatever the fuck the guy's name is. That's women preventing men from having sex. So I'm glad you're standing up for your people and saving them.
People realize how insane the line of argument is.
Seriously, though, if you guys haven't seen Prince of Egypt, that movie is amazing. If you guys want to watch it in Discord sometime, we totally should, because it's like probably top 3 movies for me of all time. Animated movies, it's easily top 3 movies of all time. And anyone who's worried that it's like religious, I would consider it as more like the writers of the movie and the director saw an opportunity to tell a story that happened to be in the Bible, and they made it really good.
Is you care about a social issue which affects part of the population, thus you're a loser. It's the equivalent of how in the Middle Ages, if you said the peasants were starving, the society would tell you that you're poor and shameful for that. It also betrays a complete lack of empathy or an inability to have any curiosity about someone else's issue. In fact, this line of argument just proves the incels right that society doesn't care about them at all, and that they're an oppressed underclass. I don't think people realize how irrational our society and its thought processes are. I've made multiple videos on this, but the short answer is our society has lost the ability to use causal logic. We just say random stuff and rationalize it later. The thing is, if you—
When he says society, like who, just everyone, just like no one can do this anymore. Like he's using these huge generalizations, and it's crazy.
You discuss these issues and the automatic reply is, you're an incel, that means you just don't care at all about the truth. What this means is relational warfare—
Wait, but like, you can be an incel, other people can call you an incel and still care. You can use incel not in a pejorative sense, but in a descriptive sense.
or GSR, being gossiping, shaming, or rallying. This is a form of social piracy in which you use social shaming as a way to push your own self-interest. Our culture does this all the time, every day. What all this belies is that we live in a culture in which young men are seen as completely useless. Society doesn't care about your issues and basically actively wants young men to die. Just read between the lines at street interviews of women and men, reading social media comments, seeing what the media or academia or even the government says. This is a harsh pill for many to swallow, and most won't believe it even if it's shown to them, but by the end of the video, you'll see why this is true. The other side of this is there's a lot—
Okay, I'm so sorry. I have to. I love these like blurbs of text that he puts on the screen while he's talking about something related, but in a completely different sense. Imagine if a guy wrote a book asking what we need women for. He'd immediately become a social pariah. Even the most sexist men on the right don't question why we keep women around. Duh, because it's obvious. Boobies. Come on. You don't need to ask that question when everybody knows the answer. That's dumb. Second of all, the reverse the roles is like the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life. It's just it's so peanut brain. It's genuinely so peanut brain. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Oh, man. Man never read The Modest Proposal. I mean, it's giving— did you guys see— I don't know if it was a psyop or what, but Jeanette McCurdy, former child actor, spoke about how her mom was very abusive and pushed her into these acting spaces that she felt very uncomfortable with. And she was abused and was taken advantage of as a young girl doing Hollywood. And her book is titled—
I do feel bad for incels. I do care. I relate to incels a lot.
Incels.
But that's part of the reason why I'm a feminist. There's no point to misogyny and anti-feminism.
So I haven't read A Modest Proposal, but the response towards this book, it's giving the same tweet that I saw that was like, society has a real respecting family problem, and they posted a screenshot of, or like a picture of like Jeanette McCurdy's book that says, "I'm glad my mom died." But if that person had actually read the book, you would realize it's not that Jeanette McCurdy is saying families suck and you should be happy when your parents die. It's my parent happened to be dog shit and happened to put me in so many unsafe environments. So yeah, I am happy that this controlling person in my life is no longer in my life. It's giving that, like, I'm not going to actually read what's inside of A Modest Proposal, but the title makes me frustrated. It's like, okay. Okay. If they're starving, why don't the larger ones simply eat the smaller ones? See, now that's a good idea.
To them, but by the end of the
Oh, Mayor Cat, hi. Oh, the Mayor Cat.
video, you'll see why this is true. The other side of this is there's a large community of men who just go, "Don't worry about these issues, just grind harder, bro, at being successful, bro." They also like to call me a loser for even talking about these issues.
Baby girl, whatever your name is, I'm just going to call you Sean. You seem like a Sean. You're nerd maxing. Obviously, you can't be like, you're going wizard build and you dare listen to someone going barbarian build. Of course, their advice is not good for you.
This is the social equivalent of a foreign country conquering your nation, oppressing its culture, language, and history. And if you bring it up, they'll say, "You should just make a bakery and stop complaining to make some money." If this is a social issue which hurts a lot of people, we need to talk about it and deal with it. I want us all to be successful, but that's different from just ignoring the reality of the world. There's also a school of just do blank to date. Just go to church, go to the bar every night, hit on random girls in the street. Use certain images in your dating profile. I know lots of entrepreneurial guys.
Let me save you a lot of time. Number one, the social rules for dating vary massively on geographic basis, including inside the United States. Number two, cold approaches largely aren't effective. Wait for a sign like a girl to look at you twice or smile. Number three, if you're handsome, dating apps can work, but it's basically impossible to get someone wife-worthy. There's so many assumptions in this video that are like actively incorrect. It's weird. It's so insane. It's just so bizarre to me. Number four, running multiple dating app profiles at a time is very time and effort consuming due to shadow banning. What? Are people doing this? Okay. Most group events are very male skewed. What does he mean by most group events? Has he been to a knitting circle? It sounds like the group events you're going to are very male skewed. Maybe consider going to female skewed events. You ever go to like a yoga class? Easiest place to talk to women because it's all women. Go to a hot yoga class, 90% of the people there are women. Dare I say, sexy women. Yeah, my name is Dennis Reynolds. How'd you know? It's silly. It's silly. If you are going to group events and they're mostly male, you're going to the wrong group events. This KKK rally is only white men. What the fuck? Must be the case that most rallies are white. It's like, wait, hold up. Wait a minute. Oh, the flyer says this was a gay orgy. Is that why there's... Oh. My bad. My bad. Friend circle game is good, but you often run into implicit rules around let's not hurt the friendship. What? Having a large network of female friends is the best strategy. Best strategy for what? These sentences aren't complete. Nightclubs aren't worthwhile unless you're super extroverted. You can't sleep around in the social circle for too long because the girls in the circle will realize it and ban it. What do you mean by ban it? Like, I'm so confused. I am so confused. I'm going to press play. I'm just... Banned. You've been shadow banned from our friend circle.
And players. They have tested in some form every single kind of these, and they're generally not that effective. The thing is that a trick like this could work for a small group of men, but then once women catch onto it, it'll stop. It's similar to the stock
Those
market.
darn women are using their brains. They're catching on to us. We're just trying to get pussy around here, and they're figuring us out. Okay.
Or the labor market, which will adapt itself to any hacks people use to invest. All of these are really just people coping at dealing with a horrible situation in which they are powerless. The reason I have this giant intro is that this is a topic—
How much money do you think this guy has in GME?
which whenever it's broached, people just refuse.
It's crazy how online you can be that you can call losing friends as being banned. I didn't even think about that. Like, actually, you're spitting Z-Wait. Algorithm, thank you for the prime.
Used to speak about it rationally and shut down. For women and older people, they treat incels as if they're subhuman vermin, and anyone who speaks up about this is a whining loser. Meanwhile, for a large segment of young men, they're being consumed by so much rage on this issue that they've lost the ability to think rational. They're being consumed by so much rage on this issue that they've lost the ability to think rational.
You don't want to see me rage.
I agree. I totally agree with you, man.
Or they're
Totally agree.
being consumed by the powerlessness of the situation and thus cope about solutions that aren't real. If I didn't have this segment, this video would turn into that, and I want to avoid that so it can remain constructive. A large reason that people become so emotional at the incel
Also,
rhetoric
is that even correct grammar? Isn't it to think rationally, not rational? You must be a woman the way that you're making fun of him. Stop it.
that it's an emperor's new clothes moment for our society, in which having to acknowledge that this large demographic of young men has been done wrong by our society would force us to come to terms with the lies and ideologies which we use to maintain our right to rule. And thus,
you would think this guy's a leftist with how much he writes. Oh my God. Incels are an affront to our society and its ruling ideology, since our ruling class predicates their power upon using the bureaucracy to help various social issues. Dude, if I turned this in to any of my classes, any of my writing intensive classes in college, all of this would have been strike through for being way too wordy. Through this, they have created a racial and sexual caste, of those who get help by the system. Since this allows continual bureaucratic growth, which is in their self-interest to deal with underlying issues that cannot really be solved by bureaucracies, such as the biological differences between men and women or the Black ghetto communities. Dude, just say that you're racist. Like, it's not, you wrote all these words and you could have just had two instead. I'm racist. It would have been way easier. This is since this allows between bureaucracies. It's like, what are you talking about, man? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Just say that you think Black people are getting laid more than you, and you can pretend like it's true. Okay, just go for that. Let's just go for it. You know what I will tell you? Okay, I will say something. All right. If other people are having more sex than you, it's because they are taking way more L's than you are in an average week. Okay? That's the truth. My personal experience, all right? My personal experience is that, okay, hope I don't create any incels. I feel like white dudes are always the last ones to try and hit on you. Like, I have had older Arab dudes walk up to me on the street and be like, wow, do you want to get married? I'm like, I don't know you. I don't even know you. Or like, Black male friends of mine have been very open and front, like very forward and being like, hey, I just want you to know, here's my card if you're ever interested. If you're interested, if you're not interested, it's chill, but if you're ever interested. chances are if you feel like other people are getting more pussy than you are, it's because you're not trying hard enough and you aren't willing to take rejection as often. Because those people take rejection a lot. Like a lot. Okay? I think it's just like, we don't value forwardness enough. And I feel like we take rejection too hard. I wouldn't even be surprised, by the way, that like, if you grow up not white in America, you're having a lot of instances of people rejecting you for the color of your skin. And I think it hardens you a little bit because you recognize, oh, it's fine. I'll be okay even if I get rejected, right? So I feel like because you have that experience getting hardened because you're exposed to the reality of the world and that, like, you know, other people are just not going to like you just because of the color of your skin, it makes you a little bit less hurt by each individual rejection. But if you've never been put in that situation before and you have this sort of entitlement, this innate entitlement, and you haven't had enough rejection in your life, I'm not surprised then that there happen to be a lot of white dudes that feel like they've become incels. White privilege makes you less strong to deal with rejection. Yep. Yeah, I would guess that if there's any social phenomenon occurring, it's that. The problem is that these people always think that it's like this like biological racial passive. And there's definitely like, I don't know about this guy specifically, okay? But there's also, I've noticed with a lot of white incels, there's like a little bit of like great replacement theory happening inside of their brains. And so they might see one of their black friends have sex with someone who's white. And they're like, oh, she would never have sex with me. It can't be that I'm cringe and I have no game. It must be that you are trying to replace me. And it's like, what are you talking about, man? Like, what is going on? What's happening here? What's happening? I don't understand. Okay. Weird champ. Also, another thing I will say, this has just been my experience talking with friends and friends' families and being invited to Thanksgivings or Christmases or whatever. But there's a lot more back and forth in non-white households. In white households, everyone is so polite. It's almost like a little bit Get Out-ish how polite everyone is. Whereas I feel like, until they get drunk, yeah. Whereas I feel like it depends on the family. Oh yeah, of course. I mean, of course it depends on the family. Yes, 100%. I feel like it's just been more common in my experience that there are more groups and cultures that enjoy banter. Like Arab people, for example. Arab people love to banter. Arab people will like insult you, your lineage, everything about you, your life, your career, every decision you've ever made, and you have to learn to laugh at yourself. And I've noticed the same thing with a good number of like Black friends that I've had the opportunity to hang out with them or their families. There's so much roasting going on. Like I'm watching, I'm like, this is like murder. I'm watching someone get murdered in real time, verbally. I sure am glad that I'm a guest and I'm not getting treated this way because I'm a guest. God damn. But I feel like there is a specific like problem, I would call it, where there's no banter. Like I feel like white parents are not bullying their kids enough. Like they'll just be like, we gotta pray for you. And it's like, okay. Sure. Okay. But that's like a cultural thing, right? That's just like certain cultures have valued certain things. And also some interesting theories about how comedy can be used as a tool to disarm people's negative perceptions of your racial group, which is why for example, there's like the joke about like very funny Jewish people, that Jewish people are always funny. But a big part of it has to do with the fact that like you are molded by your society. By white, you mean American? Yeah, I'm talking about like American, like Midwestern American, the Midwest American. They don't do banter. They do control like their post-World War II dads. Yeah. White parents will roast you, but it's always serious. I know. This tracks. The most polite and stoic people I've ever known were Swedish family I grew up with. Dude, you remember that Swedish post that was going around that's like, someone invites you to dinner. Do you offer them or someone invites you to their house. Do you offer them food? The other way around. Excuse me. Anyways, I could never tell if my dad was roasting me or bullying me. Flexicans shitting on their family members for how they name their kids. Wait, let me see this.
More Hispanic names. Okay, let's go. Salud. Let go. My nephew's name is Cabron, pronounced K-Bren. And my grandma pronounces it in Spanish, which is cabron. My son's name is Ken, and my mom always says, ¿Quién es? My son's name is Chevelle, aka Chevy. And my aunts and cousins call him Silverado, 4x4, literally all the Chevy cars. Imagine them calling him 4 times. Never mind. My son's name is Aries, and my mother calls him Horoscopo.
Do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean? But nobody is bullying white parents for naming their kids like Megan with a Y. It's like, wow, that's such a beautiful name. Oh my God, where did you pick that? I was thinking of naming mine Kaylee with like 5 C's. It's like, what's 5 C's? Where are you putting them? What? I'm so confused. We're not doing enough roasting, basically. White people need to be bullying each other more, is what I'm saying. We need more white on white bullying. All in good fun with some good laughs, okay? That's what we fucking need. That's what we need, all right? And then we can solve the incel crisis with that alone. All right, what was it? Thus, having a demographic of young, statistically mostly white men not being able to mate is an affront to their entire worldview. Mating is the most primal thing in the human condition. Thus, acknowledging this would open up the argument that their entire philosophy isn't a reflection of the world, which they know subconsciously. Thus, it fills them with rage. Wow. A real wordsmith.
Thus, we attack the incels as a demographic because they force us to realize that our worldview is incorrect. Part 2, the greatest crisis of our time. 1/3 of men under 30 are virgins. 1/3 of men under 30 have had no sex in the last year either. Something like half of young men haven't walked up and spoken to a girl in the last year. And something like 1/4 of young men have never approached a girl in their life.
You know what's crazy? Nobody ever talks about the fact that like women not having sex is also on the rise. Like women between the ages of 18 and 30, 20% haven't had any sex.
Lives. 2/3 of young men are single. Well, I think for guys my age, and I'm 22, the numbers are probably around 80%. The thing is that these are the kinds of numbers which people tend to feel sensitive about or cope with. Thus, the real numbers are undoubtedly higher. These numbers are absolutely horrifying. I think are symbolic that there is a serious issue. I hope people can understand why, when I look at this, I see what is likely the most important issue in our society. This is not to say there are not other very serious issues, but reproduction and mating are the most pivotal things in the human condition. Thus, when you create an issue with them, you're ripping...
Since we were talking about antinatalism before, antinatalists would disagree. I just fundamentally disagree that there is this moral imperative of mankind to mate and reproduce. I disagree. Says who? Well, it's biologically pre-programmed in us. Okay. Well, cancer occurs naturally. It doesn't mean that it's good. Just because you naturally want to do this thing, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is unbelievably important. That we have to do this thing. Like, what? I disagree. No. Murder is very natural. Yeah. No, murder is real. Okay? Just because something is like natural doesn't mean shit. Just because it's something that we've done for forever doesn't mean shit. No, you may want sex, but have you ever had a good grilled cheese sandwich with tomato soup? Oh, yes.
The entire society apart. Something I like to teach older people is that whatever was going on when you were young is no longer the case. You see a similar thing with economics, where baby boomers often can't comprehend how economically bad it is for young people, in that Gen Z today has 90% less spending power than the baby boomers did in their 20s. The world is completely different for reasons I'm going to explain over this video. The biggest mental bottleneck here is that older people don't realize that dating today is no longer reasonable or rational. Things have gotten so skewed that people are acting in incredibly irrational and self-serving ways. The fact that there's an entire branch of data science based around dating, which is incredibly popular, is a sign that we're not in a good place. We have a bunch of metrics which we use to assess.
So much text. Oh my God. You couldn't find a way to put this text in the script? You're making me read it and pause? I mean, sex is important for species survival, but you're presupposing that we should care about species survival innately. I do not benefit from knowing that mankind will continue to exist after me. And I think that you will often end up with, that ideology is the basis behind The Handmaid's Tale, the book. Empathy, compassion, and love, those are things that I think are innate that we should protect by any means. Like, those are the things that I think are important to humanity more than anything else. I do not think procreation under any circumstances is important, required even. I disagree. I fundamentally disagree. Can't we just vibe? Why does everything have to be about legacy? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Also, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like everything ends. Mankind will end as well one day. That's fine. It doesn't matter. And I don't think you can convince me that it does matter, actually. In fact, I would say that caring predominantly about that over everything else is bad for mankind. And I think mankind without humanity is not mankind. That is just some pathetic copy of what mankind is supposed to be. Let's get back to this video. Modern Americans are genetically identical and pretty close culturally to the Europe of 30 years or 100 years war. Today, people won't make others feel bad emotionally, will work well in cubicles, be scared to hunt, or be atheist. What the fuck does that sentence mean? Today, people won't make other people feel bad emotionally? Will work in cubicles, be scared to hunt, or be atheist? What? He's fighting demons. He's fighting demons, guys, okay? You lost the point. What's the next sentence? Meanwhile, in those conflicts, people would butcher entire villages, burn people as witches, have ecstasies of joy before a saint's relics, or conquer the new world. The decision to capitalize certain words but not other words is so interesting. New is capitalized, and the N in new is capitalized, but not the W in world. Interesting. What the fuck did these sentences mean? These are the same people put in different incentive structures. Society can become very unreasonable quickly since we're not innately reasonable. It's a strategy for society which incentivizes it. I'm begging you to send your scripts to somebody else because, like, if I turned in this as a paper, I would get an F.
In that we're not in a good place. We have a bunch of metrics which we use to
check out Peter Turchin's work. He predicts over 20 historical revolutions or civil wars to the years they took place in. This includes the Russian Civil War, Black Death, French Revolution, fall of the Roman Empire, U.S. Civil War. His computer models use the following variables: competition for elite jobs, inequality, wage stagnation. What does this have to do with I mean, I'm in agreement that like these are way more bigger variables or like way more relative, or sorry, excuse me. Wage stagnation, general inequality are a much better predictor for civil unrest than how much sex you're having. Other useful variables are average age of marriage, height, self-deleting, luxury consumption, birth rate, debt, inflation, and so many more, which when added together create a metric for total social stress.
To assess when societies
Okay, I'm done trying to make sense of this.
Have revolutions, but one of the most powerful is the average age of marriage. In every society in which the average age of marriage goes above age 28, there will be a civil war or revolution, as people are designed to procreate, and as that gets too difficult, they then burn down the system so they can roll the dice to get at least some shot of having their genes survive.
Wrong. Totally wrong. Unbelievably wrong. Incorrect. I am... Causation is not correlation. Oh my goodness. Sir. What is it, like shark attacks and ice cream sales? This iconic photo. Open image, a new tab. When people buy ice cream, they suddenly get attacked by sharks. Surely it can't be that there is some other factor that is causing both of these things to occur. Surely, right? Right. It can't be that in the summer, people want more ice cream, and in the summer, people tend to go to the beach more, which means they tend to get attacked by sharks more. It's not that the ice cream is causing the sharks to be more bloodthirsty. It's not like the sharks are like, yo, you smell that? Soft serve. Vanilla. Bro, that's just my favorite. Let's go. Like, that's not what's happening. No, that's not what's happening. You can't see things that have happened and then make that correlation that doesn't exist, that you haven't proven with any sources. Unless he provides a source, which I don't think that he'll be able to. More realistically, if you are not going out and having sex and finding people to be in love with, chances are what's happening to you is what's happening in Japan, which is you're working unbelievable work days. You're super stressed. By the time you get home, you don't have any energy to do anything because you're too busy stressing from work. And then on your weekends, you want to spend that time actually doing stuff that's fun for you, that doesn't take any work, that doesn't require you to do anything that's difficult. So you're probably going to stay home, watch some TV, hang out with your friends that you always hang out with, sleep, or catch up on laundry, cooking, meal prepping, whatever, which means you never find the time to go out and meet other people. It has less to do with the fact that people are like, I'm not procreating, time to go cause a war. It's that all of those little things build up. The amount of free time you have in a day decreases to the point where it's just too much of a burden to bear. You and everybody else starts experiencing this, and then there is civil unrest.
The birth rate is now collapsing at a precipitous and terrifying level. It's scary to watch as almost every country in the world, except the poorest, are now having unsustainable birth rates. It's falling very rapidly and not stabilizing anywhere, rather just going down and down. In a country like South Korea, for every 100 of their people they have today, they will have 4 in 100 years at the current rate. The thing is, this isn't happening in the lab, but rather in the real, messy political world. What would the social ramifications
I like the idea of it happening in a lab.
of a change this big be? Furthermore, this is an example of how bad things can get if the sexes don't get along. A society with bad dating and marriage is a society which won't survive. This is a topic which I've made this video about, but there are 3 key factors which push dating to be what it is today. The first being the dating apps, which on a systematic level massively destroy the dating balance between men and women. What occurs here is that since it makes it incredibly easy for men to reach women, and women are naturally very picky, is that you end up with horrifying inequality. If Tinder, the biggest dating app,
horrifying inequality,
was a country, it would be the second most unequal in the world, behind South Africa and ahead of Venezuela. Tinder also filters for the most shallow thing, looks, and women tend to be even pickier on looks, while things like personality, game, or social class act as equalizer.
There is a very good video that I'd like to show you guys on this. See if I can find it. Here. It's called Why Men Get So Few Dating Matches on Dating Apps.
Friends install a dating app and try their luck. The man tries to set up the perfect profile. A nice front picture, a group picture to make it seem like he has friends, a picture in Paris to make it seem like he's cultured, and a picture climbing mountains to make it seem like he's adventurous.
Where's the picture of him holding the fish?
After some hard work, the profile is ready. The woman doesn't feel safe sharing a lot of personal information, so she chooses the first picture she can find, and she's ready to go. They start swiping and hope for the best. At the end of the day, when the woman checks her phone, her like counter is full. Practically every profile she likes is an instant match. Soon, she's overwhelmed by the amount of matches and messages in her inbox. For the man, it's a different story. So far, he has only received a couple of likes and has 0 matches.
I love the guy. No!
It's a different story. So far, he has only received a couple of likes and has 0 matches.
Darn
He
it.
becomes frustrated with the app and starts questioning his self-image. He puts so much effort into setting up a nice profile after all. Why can't he get any matches? To answer that question, we need to understand the numbers behind dating apps. I made a simulation of a dating app with 1,000 dummies to try to understand why men get so few matches. Dating apps can paint a distorted picture of what the real dating world is like. Some studies indicate that dating apps can have a negative impact on self-esteem, with a stronger effect on men. And women often have to find strategies to deal with intrusive behavior from men in these apps. It's hard to understand exactly what's going on inside these apps because there's very little data available. However, we can make educated guesses based on the little information we have. I'll start with an ideal, unrealistic scenario, and we'll see how quickly things change when I start adding real-life variables. A side note, we're talking about dating with opposite genders. Same gender dating in dating apps has very different dynamics and is out of scope for this video. Since we're trying to make an ideal
During Pride Month. Wow.
scenario, let's assume we have the same amount of men and women using the app. Let's also assume that everyone sees 100 profiles per day and that every profile is treated equally by the algorithm. I'm going to assume that users like 1 out of 4 profiles they see. This means every user has a probability of 25% of being liked every time their profile is shown. Some of these parameters aren't realistic, but that's okay. We're gonna start like this and make it more realistic as we go. So, how many likes and matches will everyone get at the end of the day? Let's run the simulation.
Running the simulation. Running.
Okay,
Running.
not too bad. On average, both women and men get 25 likes and 6 matches per day. So, why does this look different from real dating apps? Let's start with reason number 1. There are more male than female users.
Real?
I was able to find user gender data for Tinder and Bumble, 2 of the most popular dating apps in the world. In both apps, there were significantly more men using the app than women. In our simulation, I'm going to keep it simple and assume we have 2 men for every woman, a ratio somewhere between Tinders and Bumbles. I ran the simulation again and the differences were big. I'm gonna give you a chance to pause the video in case you want to try to guess how many likes and matches users get.
Guys, quick. Run the numbers in your brain.
We now start to see the first signs of a gender imbalance in the results. Because there are 2 men for every woman, the number of likes received by the women doubled and the number of likes received by the men halved. And when we look at the number of matches, something interesting happens. Women received an average of 50 likes. Since they like 1 out of 4 profiles, you would expect them to get an average of 12 or 13 matches. However, they only get 6. That's because now there are so many male users that women don't even get a chance to see half of the users that like them. They only see 100 profiles per day, and there are just too many men in the queue. At this point, it makes sense that women start to feel a bit overwhelmed by the amount of likes they receive. Because they often encounter intrusive behavior from men, that also makes them think carefully about who they give likes to. Men, on the other hand, are starting to get a bit desperate. Because they don't get a lot of likes, they know they can't be too picky and start giving likes more generously to improve their chances of getting matches. Which leads us to reason number 2. Men give more likes than women. According to this New York Times article from 2014, men are nearly 3 times as likely to like a profile than women on Tinder.
The funny thing is, won the apps, I don't understand. It's true. There's way more dudes, but for like in-person speed dating or social single happy hours, there's way more women than men, like 2 to 1. And I've been to one where it was like 5 to 1 men. I mean, yeah, because I think you can get a much more better vibe of how someone is in real life. And I think a lot of women are tired of getting on dating apps. And I swear to God, I saw a dating app profile that was like, most women are going to swipe left. Like most people are not going to swipe on me. It's like, what the fuck is this loser ass shit you're posting under? Is this supposed to be appealing for women? Are women supposed to see this and be like, this poor guy isn't getting any likes, I'll swipe for him? That's weird. Whereas generally when you're talking in person to another human being, you're not going to do that because you know that it's cringe.
So let's use those numbers. I'm updating the simulations that women and men give likes in 14 and 46% of cases respectively. So how do you think this is going to change the results? Now the gender imbalance increases even further. Women get an average of 92 likes, whereas men only get 7. And because men like 46% of the users they see, these 7 likes result on an average of 3.2 matches. Women get twice as many, an average of 6.4 matches per day. But things can get even more complicated for the average male user. Attractiveness is subjective, but the reality is that some profiles will be considered attractive by more users than others. Which brings us to reason number 3. A small share of the users get a big share of the likes. In a Q&A post from 2017 on Hinge's official website, one of the engineers behind the dating app shares some data about this imbalance. He mentioned that certain people get exponentially more attention than others. He reported that about half the likes from men were given to about 25% of women, and half the likes from women were given to only 15% of men. This means that, especially with men, there's a small segment of users that get a large slice of the total likes.
Isn't that kind of true for the women too? I guess 10% is a decent size. I mean, like, this just means that there are the people who are best at looks maxing their profiles tend to be women instead of men. More than that, like what?
Let's try to include that in our simulation. I'm giving every user a score from 0 to 100% that determines how attractive they are perceived by other users. Until now, attractiveness has had no impact on the probability of getting likes. That means that every time a profile was shown, the probability of that profile being liked was 46 and 14% for women and men respectively, regardless of their perceived attractiveness. I'm now looking for new distributions such that the top users get exponentially more likes, but while making sure the average like percentages stay the same. I went for the simplest formulas I could come up with, and you can find my assumptions on the screen in case you're interested. Basically, I assume that users with an attractiveness score of 0 have 0% chance of getting likes, and users with an attractiveness score of 100 have 100% chance of receiving a like. This is admittedly an oversimplification, but since I couldn't find any real data, I'm trying to keep it as simple as I can. With these curves, 50% of the likes given by men go to the top 27% of women, and 50% of the likes given by women go to the top 10% of men, which is quite close to the numbers reported by Hinge, so this should be reasonably accurate.
This might be the worst brain rot I've ever seen this week.
Let's run our
it's
final
fine.
simulation. You can try to guess the results now.
Resuming video in 2, 1.
This was a bit of a trick question. The numbers stay the same. The difference is, now the distribution is skewed by the top users who get most of the likes. That means that the averages no longer describe the experience of the average user. So let's add a new metric. The median. In other words, how many likes and matches does the average user get? And now we can see the average male user only receives 1 like and 0 matches.
Bro is auditing his holelessness.
If you look at the average number of likes for different attractiveness scores, we see that the top 10% of male users get 37 likes on average, whereas the average users get somewhere between 0 and 1 like. And if you look at the average number of matches, something interesting happens. The top 10% of men actually get more matches than the top 10% of women.
So I'm going to say a couple things and then we'll move back onto the video because I want to try and get as close as I can. But I think what most dudes don't consider is that women will craft their profile for the male gaze while men craft their profile out of their own gaze because they haven't been raised in a society that forces them to filter existence through I think a different sex's perception. I'm also going to go in a different direction here and say that as a femoid growing up in femoid circles and having female friends, Some of these bitches love to be taking photos, okay? And I was tired of looking so hideous in all of these photos. When you are put in a situation where you have to learn this skill, you will learn the skill. A lot of men don't deal with this issue. A lot of men do not have a lot of male friends in their life that are like, let's get a picture. Let's get a picture. A lot of male friends just kind of have male friendships where they're like, hey, do you want to go see this movie? Okay. And then they never take photos. Whereas most female friend groups have at least one woman in there that wants to take photos, which forces all the other women to learn how to take photos with them, because who the fuck wants to look ugly in all the photos? You, as a male, are not put in the same situation that forces you to learn how to do this thing. Men consider this a useless skill. I mean, of course, right? This would be the same, I would say, in terms of like makeup, right? I was forced to learn how to do makeup, and I was forced to learn how to do my hair and all this other shit because the women around me were interested in doing it. And I can't hang out with people and look like a fucking slob. Oh my God. Why would you want to take pictures all the time? I mean, I think a lot of people like to do it because it's a nice way to remember things. I used to consider it pretty, I used to consider it an attribute of vanity. And now that I'm older, I'm like, wow, I really wish I had taken more photos. Because like now I've lost all of these memories forever. And I was kind of low-key being misogynistic, being like, that's so vain. Why do you want to take photos of yourself? I live in the moment. It's like, oh my God, like, yeah, cringe. Let me guess, you also don't like the color pink. Grow up. So I would say the same thing about like learning makeup and learning hair and stuff. The environments that you're in force you to learn and grow as a person, right? And the environments I was in, being friends with lots of girls, they were interested in those things because those things were marketed to women. So just because I wasn't particularly interested in them, it didn't really matter because I ended up learning about them kind of against my will. In the same way that if your parents are teachers, you probably know more about teaching than the average person does. If your parents are doctors, you probably know more about health than the average person might. It's the same sort of thing. Scrapbooks are a dying hobby. I know, right? Just take pictures with friends, guys. My childhood best friend just passed and I have 0 photos with him and that stings. Yeah. Silonite Princess, thank you so much for the 17 months. Thank you. I'd rather die than take a picture if I'm being candid. I'm not going to lie. Low key, guys, I'm going to tell you this. As someone who hated taking photos, it gets easier. It gets easier. I swear. I promise. There's a lot of secret hacks that nobody tells you that make photo taking a lot easier once you learn them. I actually got my female friends to take pictures of me and help write my bio. Likes and dates on Hinge started to pop off afterwards. It's some advice for dudes in your audience. Yeah, you would be surprised how many like... Okay. This is sort of a theory I've been working on in my personal time. One that I've been crafting. And I was thinking about the existence of female pick-me's and how male pick-me's don't really exist in the same way that female pick-me's exist. And thinking about this, don't they? No. See, the thing is, the male pick-me is the male feminist, but he doesn't believe in any of those things. He says those things to get pussy. Nice guys are not nice guys. They are dudes trying to get pussy using a different strategy to do that. Pick-me's believe in what they're saying. They do, to their core. They want to be that person. The nice guy is LARPing as a nice guy because he likes the idea of being one because he thinks it'll get him pussy. Female pick-me's, they feel it to their core. Not pig-me, pick-me, P-I-C-K-me. Also, yes, self-proclaimed nice guys are not actually nice guys. And so, yes, exactly. So like I was thinking about this a little bit. I was thinking about this theory a little bit, and I was like, oh, interesting. Let me think about this. You know, why is it the case that this is the way that it is? And I want to read this out. Being a pick-me is a relationship with a patriarch of white supremacy, so it inherently is selling out to get accepted into the fold of power, which is about where I came at. This is about the conclusion I came to as well. This is why Black people can code switch and feel comfortable swapping between AAVE and white speak, but you don't see any desire or necessity in white men to learn AAVE. And it's because this is the norm, this is the accepted. You want to be in the accepted, so you will learn how to perform in the accepted. And so I think that in general, women's experience being the second sex, you are pushed into understanding the male gaze. Part of your job is, as a woman, to learn the male gaze. Now, that might be in subtle pieces of media where it's like, oh, this chick wants to get the guy, it's time for her to go do a makeover. Or this might be in the sense of like your parents telling you, how do you think you're ever going to settle down if you never take care of the way you look? This is not something I've found happens the other way as much. I don't feel like men think about the female gaze nearly as often as women think about the male gaze. I think that men think about when they go out to get dressed to go somewhere, they think about what they think would look good. When women go out to get dressed to dress up or whatever the fuck, they dress up on what they think men would find the most attractive. And this is a generalization. This is not a end all be all. There are instances where this is not true. Of course, this does not encapsulate every single person. Of course not. But I have found, and I mean, better feminists than I can explain that men care more about other men's perceptions than women's perceptions, right? This is also why I've found, at least anecdotally, women tend to pick up the hobbies of their male companions. Men do not seem to pick up the hobbies of their female companions. It is very frequent that I have seen women who don't play video games start to play video games because their boyfriends or husbands play them. It is very rare that I have seen men pick up sewing or knitting because their wives do it. It's kind of just not something that necessarily goes both ways. And again, this is not applicable to everyone. If you crochet, fucking good for you. It's a great life skill to learn. Again, it's not applicable to everyone. This is a broader statement. And it's just because we value certain things and the power structure is set up that the people at the top happen to be men. So for example, let's take Twitch as an example, right? The people on Twitch at the very top are men. The vast majority of them are men. The top performers are men. The top 100 streamers are like 99% male, 97% or something. I don't know. And so everyone's job is to appease those people so that they may have a chance of scouring viewers anywhere they can. This is the same of any power structure. The people who do not have the power will appease the people who have the power in hopes that they may take some for themselves. Naughty Reaper. Will you start playing an FPS game if you start dating an FPS boy? I mean, I started playing MOBAs because I started dating someone who played MOBAs. So, not because of penis, though. I mean, obviously not, right? If women were at the, if society was predominantly ruled by women, I think you would see the opposite happen. You would see a lot of men feeling that they would need to appease the female gaze as a way to obtain power for themselves so that they may be respected in that space. Right? And this is just one aspect. There's a lot of aspects here. I don't know. I feel like a lot of girl hobbies don't really have multiplayer. Like you can do them in the same room at the same time, but not together. Disagree? Disagree. I mean, like, what are sewing circles? What are book clubs? What's cooking? Those are, I think, all things that are considered traditionally feminine, but they're cooperative, and there are ways to make it cooperative. Like, you can play Elden Ring by yourself, or you could get the multiplayer mod and play with someone else, right? You can read a book by yourself and then think about it by yourself, or you can read a book with someone else and then talk about it afterward. Or cooking, as an example. You can cook a meal together, and one of you does this and one of you does that.
I
Right?
told my mom I wish she had put me in ballet when I was a kid. I could have absolutely slayed blovers.
You would have slayed. You would have slayed. You would have. Anyways. Besides the point. What were we talking about? Also, there's a lot of like hobbies, I think, that are female that are they're almost like co-op dependent, like tarot card readings. It's like, yeah, I guess you can tarot card read yourself, but generally, in my experience, I've never done it. I don't even know how it works yet. But generally, it's something that you're doing for someone else, with someone else. And it's more of a co-op activity than it is a single player activity. But moving away from this stuff. I had a point that I was trying to make this. Oh, I would say that picture taking is a female hobby. And so because of that, men don't see it necessary to pick it up as a skill. And it is viewed as less important of a skill. Which is also why women who take pictures are considered vain. And it's like, why don't you live in the moment? Ugh. So yeah. TLDR. The things that will help you be better at dating apps require you to like listen to women, which is not something that I think a lot of dudes necessarily want to do. It's like, no, I'll just make my dating app. I know how I look best. I know which photos make me look best. I can write a bio. And it's like, okay, consider maybe, just maybe, a woman can help you make something that she would swipe on as an idea, just as an idea. Would you say women generally aren't as strong physically as men because we have women that have had to adapt in mentally stimulating content as men to enjoy the No, I think women, that's a good example, honestly, in the other way. Like, society gears you to be the best at your thing. Something that has always kind of like baffled me personally is like, Eco Talking, thank you for the 13 months. Trying to tell women in my life that, yeah, you should get into strength training and lifting weights, and women telling me that they don't want to get too big. And it's like, it's not gonna happen. If it was that easy, men would be ginormous. If it was that easy to build muscle mass, every single dude on the planet would be enormous. You can't accidentally get ripped. You can't accidentally get huge. It's not gonna, no one gets big by accident. It's not gonna happen. It's like the same thing as saying, I would play basketball, but what if I accidentally got too good at basketball? Yeah. It takes years to be able to grow because of your muscle size. What if I get too tall playing basketball? It takes years of dieting and years of caring a lot and like actually working out consistently to get huge. It can't accidentally happen. And it's not really something you should be worried about really ever. Like, and the women in the world who are massive, who are actually like huge, are women who've been strength training for like a decade. They're like it's like a decade of work. It just doesn't, it's not. It's so difficult to do that most of the dudes who are massive, who are actually physically like really wide, usually ended up taking steroids. Because it's unnatural to even be able to become that huge. If you start with a relatively smaller build, the only way you can get massive is by using steroids. It's why when everyone found out that the Liver King was like taking steroids, right? And he was like pretending like he got the body he did, not taking steroids and just eating raw meat. And everyone was like, I don't fucking believe you. Lo and behold, oh, a shocker. Turns out Liver King is on steroids. Turns out it's actually very difficult to get this big. And a lot of the people who actually are this massive are taking steroids. It's the only way that they can get that much body mass on them. Ask some of the swole female influencers that are constantly eating and working out and they still look feminine. A great example is like Lean Beef Patty. Like she's been weightlifting for how many years? 6, 7 years or something crazy? An insane amount. And she lifts heavy. And when she's not flexing, she just literally just looks like a random lady. The only reason she looks swole in a lot of the photos is because she's explicitly flexing. Let me see if I can find like an example of this. Sorry, I was watching a video. Like, she's probably stronger than most of us in here, okay? her max lift is probably higher than the majority of us in here. And she does not look too big. She does not look huge. Is somebody gonna And like someone else said, she's flexing and she's using CC gym lighting, which emphasizes shadows to make muscles look bigger. Yeah, a lot of the photos that she has where she actually looks impressively strong, it's shadows.
Call me a pig and lock me in a cage. I need to be on this farm.
Shadows and flexing and a pump. And this is after she's been doing this how long? How long? Ages. Fucking ages she's been doing this. I love the shadow struggle. My skin is so white. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, that's to say, like, yeah, I mean, there are like fallacies and that I've experienced with women as well. I used to be an amateur natty builder. Photography is everything. Yeah. 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 Okay, moving on. Moving on. Sorry. Let's just watch a little bit more of this video before I explode. Let's just. Okay.
Thus, what happens here is the top 10% of men sleep with the top 40% of women. Meanwhile, the bottom 80% of men get basically absolutely nothing from the dating apps, while the top 20% of men gets almost all of the women.
What's not talked about here is that the men up here are putting in the most effort in their profiles. And the men here are putting in the least effort in their profiles. I can tell just by looking at someone's profile how much time they spent on it. And I promise you, all of the men that are getting no matches are spending 10 minutes max on their profile. They're picking a photo that they already have, and they're writing a bio that's boring. And they're like, okay, it looks good to me. The men that are here are like going and doing fucking shoots and like posing specifically for photos for Tinder and are writing like the most intricate bios to attempt to convince anyone like, wait, guys, I got some yokes in me. I got some jokes. Hold up. Wait. Before you swipe.
This creates a giant class of dissatisfied men, while most women compete for a small group of men who have no interest in dating them.
100% agree. I would say that I'm a traditionally average-looking white nerd, and I still get plenty of matches and dates. Chances are it's that you went out of your way to get nice pictures of yourself, and you also put a lot of effort into your bio to make your bio sound like it's not a fucking AI-generated bio. That's like, I like to go hiking. Okay.
The second factor, one which I discuss in this video, is that feminism has abdicated standards on any level for women. Literally think of any standards you can hold a woman to without being called sexist in modern society. You can't expect a woman to be respectful, attractive, take care of the children, not cheat on you, not be promiscuous. We have loads of expectations on men in that they're expected to be wealthy, strong, charming, kind, politically safe, and about 30 other things. A study asked women what they wanted out of men, and there turned out to be over 300 different options. Ironically, men, when asked the same question, just said 3 things: that the woman is cute, kind, and interesting.
What is this point supposed to be? Men don't have any standards. Women have so many standards. Can you believe it? What? Okay.
However, even with all these expectations piled on men, women aren't expected to reciprocate with any effort on their part. Something which my male brain has trouble empathizing with, although I know on an evolutionary basis why women are like this.
Why did he just put B-roll of women making out?
That telling young women to keep a healthy weight, not be promiscuous, and to not be socially annoying is just objectively good advice.
Me when I'm not sexist. Can't you just not be annoying?
If they want to get a good man. And we constantly do the male equivalent, as I said before. But if you're offended at people saying that stuff, you're just offended by reality. The thing with all of this is that women are following the incentive structures provided to them by society. Most social things are, in fact, negotiations between competing groups with differing self-interests. If people are given leverage in a relationship, they will exploit it. For example,
I like women who are annoying. After all, I come back here, don't I? You are my strongest chatter. You are my most powerful chatter.
the advances in technology allowed mass government oppression.
Why is Hitler here? What is going on? Why? When I paused for 2 seconds.
20th century, since they could do it. Imagine with automation, you could see employers need employees less, thus creating a disbalance in labor and capital. Thus, employers could effectively treat employees as slaves, since employees don't have the leverage to push back against it.
Okay,
Human
base?
nature is very easily fallible, and thus whenever someone doesn't have an incentive to act well, they just won't. What has occurred with the combination of dating apps and feminism is that women never actually have to think about men's needs or wants ever really in society.
That is so cute. That is like, oh my God, this guy, I want to live in the world that this guy lives in, that women never have to think about men's needs ever. It's never happened ever in the history of ever. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Society actually tells them on a regular basis that screwing over men is the moral thing to do. The YouTuber
Where?
Alexander
How?
Grace, who has a great channel, has compared the female experience today to being jostled by cabbies or people trying to sell you stuff in the third world. They're so desperate for your time and energy that they come across as annoying. Someone once put together that an attractive woman in a major city can get 1,000 offers of sex in a week, in which it's not uncommon she'll get 200 likes a day on dating apps, combined with parties, guys catcalling her, and other stuff like that. I think it's completely reasonable to have empathy to think that if this were to happen to a person, what it would do to their ego. Another thing is that people have just socialized a lot.
He hasn't finished a single argument. He just is jumping from point to point to point to point to point to point.
Less due to the rise of these screens. And what that means is that dating apps are becoming practically the only option for dating, in which a majority of young people's relationships come from online. That means that the flaws in these dating app systems become exacerbated across the entire society. And as women have so much selectivity in the dating apps, that means they don't have to do stuff in person and go out to meet people in person. The thing is that this creates two different bad attitudes among the sexes. Since sexual selection is so easy among women, they don't prioritize for long-term happiness, but rather short-term thrills, which is why women go after high-value guys who won't commit to them and date bad boys. On the other side, it builds...
Oh my God, it's just, like, this is what happens when you stay on this is what happens when you spend too much time on the internet. I just don't understand. Oh, can you imagine how big one's ego would be if every interaction they had with the opposite sex was, I want to fuck you? They'd be unmanageable. So true.
Up feelings of rage, sexual frustration, loneliness, impotence, and powerlessness among men. One of my hot takes that people on the right probably won't like is that I think the people who are worst off in all of this is women. The reason I say this is that women are by nature dependent upon other people, and this is...
It's crazy to say that as a man who was in a woman's uterus and literally was dependent on his mom giving him nutritions. Like, it's actually like crazy to say that. Like, it's crazy to say that like you were literally suckling on your mom's titties, relying on her and being like, women, they just have to rely on other people. It's like, wow, that's so crazy.
Society more so than men. Men, when isolated, do a better job of surviving and staying sane.
I don't even know if that's true. I'm pretty sure, isn't that like the entire premise of that movie with the guy and the volleyball, that he goes crazy by himself? I don't think anyone is better off completely by themselves. The dude spent way too long saying he's not an incel to bring up the standard incel talking points minutes later.
As a general
He didn't go crazy, he was actually fine. Oh, well, maybe it's because he's Tom Hanks.
rule, if you put men under pressure, it'll probably make them stronger. Well,
okay, this is totally anecdotally. This is total anecdote. This is not factual. This is just my anecdote. I swear to God, all of the male friends that I have that are close to me they crumble under pressure. They crumble under pressure. Like, it's actually I think it's adorable, to be honest. But this is just my anecdotal experience, okay? This is just mine. I'm not saying that that's true for all men. I'm not saying that's true for most men. I'm just saying that a lot of the men that I've become very close friends with, like, it's crazy how this, like, the smallest amount of stress and pressure really causes a lot of damage to them.
there's a higher chance they'll just break women. Our society pumps young women with the worst possible advice so as to keep them isolated and easier to manipulate. Young women have the worst mental health now of any demographic in society. I'm yet to meet a woman under the age of 25 who doesn't have a serious mental health issue. In the same manner that young men are lonely and single, it's also true of young women, albeit not as bad, with only half of young women being single as young men. Nearly half of Gen Z women are slated to never marry and be spinsters. Young women have a bad habit in my opinion, of surrounding themselves with people who just affirm whatever they want to hear, which ends up giving them the worst advice, which they then rationalize with politics. The thing is, processes like this become cumulative issues in which they add up to be more than the component parts. This is something I talk about a lot in my video on the psychological Black Death, in which I believe our society is going crazy in general. This exacerbates everything going on, since you've removed the ability to rationally reset.
What is this? This is the effort women put into their profiles?
Woman is about to take one of the best dating app profile pictures that's ever been taken. The dress, the lighting, the friend is a pro. Everything's perfect. The sunset, the city. Right now, there's a man who's searching through his camera roll. And the picture he chose is like him dressed as Dwight Schrute chugging a beer. This is the difference. Remember that the next time you're dealing with a guy, like I can speak as a guy, that's the level of effort he's putting in from minute one, and this is what this woman and much of you are putting into even before finding a match. So good for her. Bad on that guy. This woman is
Like, this bitch she brought her whole ass photographer with her. She picked the period. What's this thing called when you like the sun is setting and then there's this orange glow? Not a sunset. It's like golden hour or something. I don't remember what it's called, but she waited for the exact time. Yeah, golden hour. She waited for golden hour. She did her hair nice. She did her makeup nice. She picked out a nice dress. She invited her friends. She was like, I'm ready. Not golden shower. No. Anyways.
This bleeds into my video on Mouse Utopia, which I won't.
I like how this video is just an advertisement for his YouTube channel. It's like, anyways, I talk about this in this video, and then I talk about this in this video, and then I talk about this in this video. It's like, what are you going to talk about in the one that we're currently watching?
Bring up here in great detail since it's so depressing and horrible, but watch the video if you want to know more. It's hard to convey in words how desperate most young men feel in dating. It's something which they very rarely admit, often to themselves, in which bringing this up makes them angry, but it's an unspoken subconscious terror which racks my generation. It's a sense of betrayal by a society which would rather they never reproduce, or better, never be born in the first case. Part 3, Shaming the Bear. One of the sad realizations of my life was coming to terms with the idea that our elite are not intelligent or capable. They were making their decisions based off fear, reaction, and stupidity. The evil cabals do exist, but they're not particularly competent or brilliant. The reason I say this is I see such profound disbalance, almost like a room that's about to burst with pressure versus another one next to it, which is a vacuum, sucking in pressure. I just can't believe no one else sees this besides me. These two rooms are the arrogance and delusion of our elite, which uses young, unmarried women as a demographic to pull authority from and dissatisfied young men. I've talked about this calculation in multiple videos for multiple hours, but to boil it down...
Motherfucker, you haven't done any calculations.
It's very simple, in fact, that the group which holds power is stupid. Don't taunt the bear. The other thing which I don't understand is the lack of an out. When I invite people to events or to do stuff, I always give an out. I'll say, I get the impression you're busy, but if you'd like to come, you're welcome to. It's a way of not hurting someone's face, which is one of the most important parts of social interactions. If you want to oppress a group, establish a path by which they can cooperate with the system as a way to divert talent that would otherwise rebel. This is why the British recruited the Scottish or Irish to fight and populate their colonial empires, or why the Romans would co-opt and assimilate the ruling classes of the regions they conquered. Modern dating is a humiliation ritual for young men. Society won't tell you the rules of how to attract women, and in fact, it will give you the exact wrong advice. Then if you do learn what the rules are and share them, society will shame or cancel
so
you.
Much
if you
text.
don't
It's so much text. Oh.
at girls, you'll be shamed. If you do too well with girls, you can easily get a false allegation which could ruin your life, or you'll be shamed for being a frat boy or fuck boy. If you try to hold your female partners to any standard, society will shame you for that, while she's able to complain about you for anything. One of the things which I'm shocked our culture accepts is that it's perfectly normal for women to complain about the men in their lives publicly and on the internet. One of my good friends had his girlfriend talk about his sexual inadequacies publicly on Twitter. Look at how on TikTok, there's an entire industry of women posting their dating advice with men, often talking about very private details, such as sex or things which the men said in confidence. This sort of thing is evil in that it's a complete violation of social trust. This sort of thing serves literally zero social benefit. These social platforms have a lot of control over the content they let out. How come this stuff is accepted, but YouTube will take down my videos?
Sorry, let me summarize. I told a girl that I had a piss fetish, and then she went on TikTok and made fun of me. No, you're so evil. You're such an evil whore. What the fuck are you talking about, dude?
On Southeast Asian anthropology or American regional cultures. This gets even worse with marriage, where there's a 50% chance if a man gets married, he'll get divorced, with in 70% of cases being started by the women, and among the college-educated ruling class, it's 90%. And statistically, most...
You know what's crazy? They can't decide whether or not it's women that initiate the divorces or it's not women that initiate the divorces. Because every other week I see a post like this one. Let me find it. Let me click chat. Let me check. Oh, wait. Wrong. Any day now. Here we go. Every other day I see a post like this one. Number one cause of divorce, stages of marriage. And it's like a woman by the sink and like this dude sitting maniacally in this couch. And then in the second panel, she's a little fatter. And then in the third panel, she's a little fatter. And in the fourth panel, she's a little fatter and he's gone. So which one is it? Which one is it? Is it there's a women are initiating the divorce or not?
Cases. This is just...
Oh, so yeah, why isn't he getting fatter? It's so silly too, because I love how in this photo, this guy is like shirtless and not getting fatter. It's like, okay, dude, be fucking for real. All right. Stop pretending like men themselves don't gain like 20 pounds as soon as they get married. Like, let's be fucking for real, which is fine. I'm not shaming those men. I don't think that there's anything wrong with getting a little fatter. It's fine. Live your life, man. Live your life, bestie. If you want to get a beer belly, go get a beer belly. Love that for you. But like, let's be real, man.
Because the woman got bored, not because the man did anything wrong.
Oh my gosh. Because the woman got bored. I like how he says basic incompatibility is the woman getting bored.
But she can often take a majority of a man's income and his children. The courts are obscenely biased against men.
You know, I used to believe that fact that the courts are obscenely biased against men until I found out that apparently most men, for example, in the instance of like child court, most men don't even file to get custody over the kids, which is why they don't get custody of their kids. And actually, in instances where men file to get custody of their kids, they tend to win those cases.
Society will take a woman's word whether or not there's any evidence behind it. I had some tweets which went viral where I talked about all the ways young, especially white men, are actually discriminated against in society. We've already talked about discrimination in the courts, which, if you want to add another element, includes the discrimination against Western citizen populations or political conservatives. I compared the oppression.
As a child of divorce, my father took everything and my mother accepted him taking everything so she could get through the divorce quickly with minimal legal fees. It's almost like every single divorce is going to be different.
Of young white men in the Western world to literal conquered nations, like the Irish under English colonialism, and found the only difference to be that the Irish weren't allowed to vote or own property, while modern whites can. This also includes job hiring, in which 95% of new jobs created since COVID in major companies have gone to minorities. This means that there's basically a war by established whites who run these companies against the young men trying to get started. Almost all young white men in big companies have been told that they won't get promoted, and instead, diversity hires will. This is hard to overemphasize, in that in addition to the sexual inadequacy is financial inadequacy, which further emphasizes the sexual.
I like how there was a literal lawsuit against Blizzard and Riot Studios because women who had these same credentials and qualifications, or better credentials and qualifications than the men around them, were frequently turned down in promotions, even in instances where they were there for longer than newer men had been. Like, literally, there are lawsuits that prove that this is not real, but you just are so sure that it's real. It's so weird. It's so bizarre to me. Okay, guys. That's about it. That's about all I can handle for one day. Dude, I would love to talk to this guy. I would love to see the inner machinations of like such a twisted mind. This is like, it's like hilarious. It's like, you just like aren't in this plane of existence, man. It's so crazy that you can become this. It has to be a grift, right? There's just no way. I don't believe it that someone could be this stupid. That they can just believe a bunch of propaganda. Oh, please, no. No, dude. Oh my goodness. Oh. No, Session, don't be real. No. Oh God. People are this stupid. I know, but it's so scary. It's so scary. Only the light of Allah can save this man. You're right. You're right. When you're right, you're right. True. True. In the words of Tim Pool, it can't be me. It has to be everybody else.